Thank you for joining us on Newsweek as we highlight some of the top stories we followed in the course of the week. This week, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo's intention to waive his constitutional immunity to enable investigation begin over fraud allegation leveled against him has continued to attract reactions. Police uncovered secret graves in Benue State and suspects are already talking. Stay with us. Newsweek will be back with deeper conversations. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says he is ready to waive his constitutional immunity to enable the most robust adjudication of several allegations against his person and office. He has also started legal action against two persons his office accuses of making the claims he calls baseless. Demola Lawrence reports.
Especially in the public sector today.
Professor Yemi Osinbajo, a professor of law, a former lecturer at the University of Lagos, Nigeria, from 1983 to 1986, and a senior advocate of Nigeria, became the Vice President of Nigeria in 2015, along with Muhammadu Buhari as President. Professor Osinbajo remained Vice President as President Muhammadu Buhari returned for a second term after election they won earlier this year. But the recent allegation that Professor Osinbajo diverted 90 billion naira from Federal Inland Revenue Service to fund his party for the 2019 general election is not minor for the Vice President to ignore. The tax body came up with a statement where it debunked the allegation. The FIRS wished to state as follows that the entire allegation being spread by one Frank Timi that the Federal Inland Revenue Service spent 90 billion naira to fund the last elections is mendacious, wicked, malicious, and a calculated attempt to smear the image of the service and that of His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. To maintain his integrity and reputation, the Vice President said he's ready to waive his constitutional immunity for him to be investigated.
If we look at section 308 of the Constitution, it says, no civil or criminal proceedings shall be instituted or continued against a person to whom this section applies during his period of office. That benefit you are giving to me, I'm waiving it. I'm removing it. I'm exposing myself. It's your benefit. You are the owner of that benefit. So which is what the Vice President has done by saying, yes, I have this immunity given to me by the Constitution, but I'm willing to waive it and reduce myself to the status of an ordinary Nigerian because my reputation is involved here.
In his quest for fair dealing with his adversary, he could say that, oh, I'm shedding this toga, come and examine me, I'm ready. Or he can venture to sue. That particular immunity is directed, first and foremost, very particularly under section 308, subsection 1, is directed at that office and not that very person. Nevertheless, you should not forget that section 308, subsection 2 is talking about that very particular person.
There's a demand for the man who sparked the fire to come out with facts and save the country and government of the destruction.
That money that was given is not money like 9 naira or 900 naira or even 99,000 naira or even 900,000 naira that you can give me cash and I'll put it in my pocket and move away. 90 billion naira. That's some big amount of money. It's voluminous. And of course, if it was passed by who, to who, how, what is the form? And these are issues that must be proved because the principle of law here is guided by the Evidence Act. That's the foundation. Section 131 to 137, which talks about he who alleged must prove.
Vice President says it will commence legal action against two individuals, Timi Frank and Catch Ononuchu, who made the allegation. Demola Lawrence, TVC News, Lagos.
Now joining me in the studio to discuss this further, I have a lawyer, Larry Ajanaku, and from our Abuja studio, I have TVC News State House correspondent, Femi Akonde. So let's begin with you now, Femi. Vice President says he is yet to begin a legal action. Well, I understand Femi is yet to be on standby to have these discussions. Let's begin with you now, Larry. There had been varied reactions on the Vice President's move now to, waive his constitutional immunity to clear his name. And some say that he is backed by the law, while others say, well, there are so many things about it. But what are your thoughts, first off, on the position of the President, Vice President, on this matter, and what does the law say?
We'll say that it's a good thing for the Vice President to say that he wants to put himself on the line to be investigated. But look at that section critically. The section is talking about the holder of that office, not the person, but that office of the Vice President. And the section is very clear that he has an immunity against any action, whether criminal or civil, against the office and against the person. And we need to look at some things clearly, particularly the Supreme Court case of, I think, Global Excellence against Donald Duke. It was a matter that came up in the year 2000. Where the Supreme Court clearly stated and made reference to matters one like that of Amadi and NNPC to say that, look, talk about immunity, talk about Section 308, we're talking about that person, the office itself. So whoever holds the office cannot even be investigated or a criminal action or civil action brought against such a person. But then, the Vice President is saying, I'm ready to waive that immunity. If he says he's ready to waive the immunity, does the law even allow him to waive it? Will that not be a bad precedent from the angle of he saying he wants to waive? If anything happens, someone comes up with an allegation, even against the President, they will begin to call on the President to waive his immunity for him to be investigated. So
what do you think the Vice President should have done in this case?
Now, you see that in his own capacity as a person, he has the right to sue. He has the power to sue. If you have maligned my character, if you have assassinated my character, he has that power to sue the person for either libelous publication or for criminal character assassination. You can't sue in that regard. Only that, as it has been provided by the Constitution, that office may not be sued for anything. It's a good thing that he has gone ahead to sue the person, and I think that's the right thing to do under the circumstances.
Now let's look at the accusers now, who is Timmy Frank. He insists that he has proof to the claim that the Vice President did receive about 90 billion naira from the FIRS for the elections as he claimed, while the Vice President, like we already stated earlier, has threatened to sue even those who are sending malicious stories about him on social media. But generally, where do you see this leading to, where we have the defamation of the Vice President on social media and various publications?
Number one, you see that as the Vice President, even as the President, over time, so many people have said so malicious, made so many malicious statements against him, but the Vice President and the President have been cool about that. But then, it gets to a point. This is the height of it. When you alleged that he was responsible for carrying over about 90 billion naira cash to somebody in Ekoyi and all that, then, and he feels so terrible about that allegation, and he says, look, for you to have said this about me, when I have not done such a thing, you have brought me so low before the generality of the people that see me in high level, in high esteem, you understand? So the only way that he can get his name cleared is to get the person to court. How do you do that? Sue him. That person who says, and he still affirms and insists that, well, yes, he has proof. You can't give the proof to me. You can't just give it to any other person. The only place where you can bring the proof will be in the court. your words against mine. What you have, evidence you have against what I have.
All right, point taken there. Let's quickly bring our correspondent, Femi Akonde, who joins me now. Femi, the Vice President said he has started legal action against the two persons his office accuses of making the claims he calls baseless. Now, what more do we know about this and the steps taken so far?
Well, all we know is already in the public domain, but one thing we know is that the Vice President takes this allegation very serious, because that tweet was personally signed by the Vice President. If you see at the end of that tweet, there's YO, that is Yemi Osinbajo. He has his media handlers that handle that take care of tweets and other messages coming out of the office of the Vice President, but because of how important he takes this message, he personally put out that tweet, ready to clear his name, because this government prides itself on integrity, anti-corruption, and all other issues that has been prominent in this government. And the Vice President believes that if such an allegation is coming, he's ready to of course, is ready to come out and clear his name. But again, the Vice President, I would say, over time has I've talked about the power of the media, the good and the bad, and especially the social media, and even the mainstream media, when sometimes allegations are made unverifiable, and these kind of allegations go viral. And he instituted a legal action against some media organizations who published these allegations. They have apologize for this. Well, now it's for the person who is making the allegation to come out, maybe go to the court with evidence. We wait to see how all of this will unfold.
Yeah, while we wait for this, Femi, tell us how this development is being received at the presidential villa.
Well, everyone is speaking in hushed tones. No one is coming out to state categorically what the Vice President is doing about it. All that we know is that he has handed over this matter to his lawyers, and it's for the lawyers to handle it. But so far, what we are made to understand is that this would not distract the Vice President and even the presidency from issues of governance. The lawyers are handling it, and until the matter gets to court, then we would know what's next.
All right, while we wait for how things unfold in the coming week, Femi Akonde, thank you. And also my guest in the studio, Larry Ajanaku, thank you for your insights.
It's a pleasure being here.
Well, now the next story you're about to see may be disturbing, but for that, viewers' discretion is advised. Still to come, it is a horrific find in Benue and Kaduna states as police uncovered mass graves and a torture house. These revelations kept many in wonder. Stay with us for more after this. This next story you're about to see may be disturbing and viewers' discretion is advised. It was a tragic tale in Benue State where a mass grave was found. The culprit is already in police custody and investigation is on to find others involved in the crime. Mayowa Okwato has the rest.
Kidnapping is not a new problem in Nigeria. It constitutes part of the challenge of insecurity that has been on the rise in recent years. But the latest episode that unfolded in Benue State Thursday night, involving a 30-year-old leader of an 11-man gang, came up with chilling details. The gang leader, a father of 10 children and husband of 4 wives, confessed to using his hiding place as part residence, part burial place for his victims. Out of 16 graves identified by his gang members, 11 bodies were exhumed.
He's an Okada rider by profession. I was told he went to a young market close to Obudu, local government in Cross River State. So a guy came with a lady that they are going to a burial somewhere, so he should take them there. So that was the day we saw him last.
One of the bodies recovered is identified as a commercial motorcyclist who has been missing since the 10th of this month.
When they get hold of these boys, they'll ask you, who is the owner of this machine? If you say you are the owner, and they will just laugh and say, okay, you stay with us for some days. If you say you're not the owner, they will tell you they want to help you pay the BAM. So they will kill you and take away the machines.
The remaining 5 bodies exhumed were yet to be identified as relatives hadn't arrived. Benue State Governor Samuel Otom visited grave sites where the corpses were removed.
Some of them are breadwinners in their various homes. And you can imagine the pains that these people have inflicted on the people. My government will not accept this. We cannot surrender this state to criminals. We will go after them, whatever it will cost us.
The governor later met with members of the Oshongo community and urged leaders to collaborate with security agencies to fish out other gang members still at large. The State Commissioner of Police, who accompanied the governor, adds that investigation is ongoing to apprehend other culprits.
Very close to the houses is where they buried these innocent souls. So I think what you are saying is right. Investigation is ongoing. We've been on surveillance, we have been on trail, we've been gathering intelligence, and we have reached now. I think we are on the right course.
During the parade of the suspects at the force headquarters in Makurdi, the leader of the suspects, popularly known as Doctor, admitted that his gang killed 16 people in 3 months. The 30-year-old also confessed that the killings were a means to acquiring powers from a spirit he called Queen Mother, who had set a target for him to kill 4 more persons to bring the number of victims to 20.
Well, my father is a native doctor. Before, when we kidnapping people, we are killing them. And when we are killing them, our queen bear belongs to me. He's taking the blood. And that is what we are doing.
While parading other suspects in connection to related crimes, the Commissioner of Police said investigations were underway and officers had been deployed to patrol strategic areas. Kidnapping is a global challenge with root causes in poverty and unemployment. Its prevalence in Nigeria has led some state governments to stipulate death sentence as punishment for perpetrators. Mayowa Okwato, TVC News, Makurdi.
Well, we have another story about this, but let's quickly get that. That's from Kaduna State. Take a listen to this.
The inmates were brought here at the Ranchers Beach Stadium from their Rigasa home on Thursday night. But they've been moved to the Hajj camp at Mando along the airport road here in Kaduna. Left here are some of their clothes and other valuables. Access into the camp has been denied by police authorities. Senior personnel of the police say the State Commissioner of the force has been invited to Abuja. They say access into the Hajj camp would only be possible when he returns to Kaduna. The Rigasa house has been a source of concern to many here in Kaduna. They described activities there as man's inhumanity to man.
The main reason why they are there is to learn. According to what I've gathered, they are there, their parents send them there to go and learn. But if they are, I even heard that some of them died on the process. That's very terrible.
Parents are paying 95,000 for admission. And then each and every year, parent must pay 55,000 naira.
They want the authorities to follow up on the matter and make sure those behind activities of the house are made to face justice. Tassem Akende, TVC News, Kaduna.
Well, I have joining me to discuss this further. Dixon Osage is a security expert. Thank you for being here on Newsweek. Now, 2 discoveries all in 1 week. We saw what happened in Benue and another in Kaduna State. What first came to your mind?
It's a worrisome situation, and what first came to my mind is that I went through the process of disaster management, and I discovered that we are always suffering from man-made disaster. We have the natural disaster, we have the man-made disaster, we also have the inadvertent disaster. But it's quite regrettable that in this part of our own country, what we're suffering from is a man-made disaster. Killings, kidnappings, terrorisms. It's a really worrisome situation.
And what do you think is responsible for this rising wave of insecurity concerns?
Yeah, they're taking opportunity of the vulnerability of our security agencies. Looking at the incident that transpired in Benue State, for example, the guy himself has been taken into captives bike riders. and he has succeeded in taking about 16 lives. I wouldn't say maybe that environment is an ungoverned space, but I think our security agency should more or less put in their searchlight in an area where they perceive are vulnerable areas. Because these people are taking the vulnerability of our agencies. When I say vulnerability of our agencies, is that our security agencies are actually supposed to go before the laws, and that's what we call proactive measures. The goal of security is for you to go before the laws. Each time you go after the laws, security is defeated. Going after the laws is after the occurrence of an incident. Going after the laws is after the killing of Nigerians. That is a loss on its own. It's not a security strategist. And I think the federal government, I've seen what's happening, 16 lives from 16 homes. It's a worrisome situation, and most of these guys are breadwinners of the family.
And talking about the security and challenges facing us, we know the government is trying to adopt some strategies to curtail this worrisome trend, but that it seems not to be enough. What do you think can be, the new approach that can be adopted now to change the style or the approach that is already existing to nip this in the bud?
Okay, before we give solutions to this, we need to know what the problem is, because without prioritizing your security risk, you can't have solutions to that. And that is why I want the government of Benue State to set up a crisis management team. Having setting up a crisis management team should also set up crisis management centers. Look around the state, look at the flashpoint areas of the state. When you look at the flashpoint area of the state, activate a crisis management team within that given environment, and so that in the event of crime in progress, citizens within that environment will be alerted. Now, let's go back to kidnapping. The kidnapping that was orchestrated by the last guy we saw his video who killed 16 people is classified as an express. It's an express kidnapper because we have various forms of kidnapping. We have the network kidnappings, people like Evans, and people like these guys. What they do is just to kill for just short a little amount of money. Now, the reason why we came to this stage is because at the arrest of Evans, kidnapping was given a boom. Nigerians got to know that you can make billions in kidnapping. They got to know you can make millions in kidnapping because Evans' case was not properly managed. That is where we talk about criminal trade secrets. Sometimes when you arrest one or two criminals, you have to keep the secret. If I am a criminal, for example, and this is what I do to get this kind of, to get what I want to get, that should be meant for the police consumption, and that should be meant for their training academy. You tell them, hey, X, Y, Z, this is what these criminals do, these are their strategies. But coming on air and telling the public or the world how criminals are making billions, you are recruiting more criminals. And that is where criminality, aspect of kidnapping, took the boom, because people got to know that Evans made billions of naira, and that was one of the errors from the PRO of the Nigerian police. So the Nigerian police are doing so well. They should also minimize the way they give information to the public on how criminals operate. If not, a man lying at home jobless will tap from that information and it will carry out criminal acts against the populace.
So what do you think could be the likely implications and consequences now if the security challenges is not yet fully addressed?
Well, if the security challenges is not fully addressed, we will keep on experiencing a high speed of insecurity, and Nigerian lives matters. We fail to understand something in our part of the world. Human lives are irreplaceable. People who commit such kind of criminality just think they will live till eternity. Until our citizens are sensitized that they are not going to live till eternity, they will continue to commit crime. Because this guy that killed 16 people is surely going to die one day. So what is the essence of taking these lives? And on the citizen side, there should be a form of sensitization. The criminality in Nigeria is on the high rise, and they've taken the loopholes of our Nigerian security agencies. Our security agencies need to rise to the board as well. Criminality should not be given a second thought. Whoever commits criminality against the state. And any harm or any criminal activity that poses threats to human life should be eliminated. Here in Nigeria, the way we fight our criminals, we are using discretionary method. In advanced country, you don't carry out discretionary method in addressing criminality. You eliminate it immediately. How do you eliminate it? You go into actions. Put in your proactive measures in place. Because here we respond to incident as it comes. That is not how it's done in advanced world. In advanced world, you put in institutions in place. You put in applications in place. That application is going to govern the people. Are you with me? It's going to govern the citizens. It's going to also let the criminals know that they are under watch 24/7. And it's not a bad idea for us to have surveillance systems. Here in our country, we don't have surveillance system. If peradventure we have a surveillance system that will move around our territorial, our territory, and also move around the urban spaces, criminals themselves, they will have that psychological insinuations that they're under watch 24/7.
All right, thank you very much, Dixon Osiage, for your insight so far. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And that's all for this episode of Newsweek. Remember, you can follow us on our social media platforms for updates. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using the handle at TVC News NG. You can also get details of all the stories we're reporting on our website, tvcnews.tv. Until the next one, again, I am Esther Mopariola.